Representative Schiff, thank you so much for coming in and talking with us today.
Great to be with you.
Good to see you. Look, on July 17th, you issued a statement when Democrats were still quite divided, asking President Biden to think about passing the torch. Now that he has, how do you feel about that and maybe a small role that you played in that?
Well, it was hard to make that ask because he's been such a great president. He's done so much for the country, and I just have also a great deal of affection for the president, but I really felt it was time, it was important. We need to win this election, and now that it's happened, I think he's done another great service to the country. I'm very excited about Kamala Harris's campaign. She's off to an incredible start. We're seeing enthusiasm in the party that we haven't seen in some years. We're getting young people engaged. It has been really wonderful, so even better than my fondest expectation, and I'm grateful to the president once again for making that decision.
Right, and interesting point you made about young people. Yeah, we're hearing about coconut trees and Brad and all these things that we're having to check with our own kids to ask, what does that mean?
Exactly.
But look, you've known, obviously, VP Harris for a long time, both being in politics in California, working together on many things. What do you think she possesses quality-wise that makes her the right candidate right now?
Well, I've had a chance to see her kind of up close and personal when we were both working on our respective intelligence committees, and I've seen her attention to detail, her profound concern and interest in our national security. I've witnessed that fine prosecutorial mind. She's very much able to make the case, to cross-examine witnesses in hearings. She brings an incredible skill set and dynamism to the race. I think she will make an incredible president, and she's already running an incredible campaign. But what a phenomenal contrast between this former prosecutor, former attorney general, who's held, big banks accountable, held criminals accountable, going up against a criminal. Someone who's a business fraudster, someone who's a sex offender, someone who's a serial lawbreaker. And so it's a profound contrast. But I also like the contrast between someone who has fought to make the economy work for people again, especially working families, and Donald Trump, whose concern has only ever been about himself and his own wealth and that of his family members. So it's a great, sharp contrast.
I want to turn to something that's been in the news the past couple of days. Today, as you saw, Trump met with Benjamin Netanyahu, and both kind of criticized VP Harris for what she said about the war needs to end and focusing on the suffering in Gaza. And of course, Netanyahu spoke to Congress, and you went to that address. Many of your colleagues on the Democratic side boycotted it. Can you explain your choice and your thinking there?
I've never boycotted an address before Congress, and I also have respect for the state-to-state relationship between the United States and Israel. I think it's a very important alliance for us. But I have deep disagreements with the Prime Minister, and there are times, many times over the last 9 months, where it has appeared that the Prime Minister believes it's politically advantageous for him in his right-wing coalition to pick a fight with President Biden, or now to pick a fight with Kamala Harris. I don't think that's in the interest of the U.S.-Israel relationship. I also was deeply disappointed, not surprised, but disappointed that his address made no mention, had no discussion of what this is supposed to look like when the war is over. I strongly believe in a two-state solution. I want to see an outcome where Saudi Arabia recognizes Israel, Israel recognizes a Palestinian state, and we have the foundation for a lasting peace. But right now, we need Hamas to agree to cease fire. They have not been willing to agree to one. I hope that those negotiations are successful and can lead to the hostages coming home.
These are issues, of course, that you would have to deal with if you should win your Senate race against Steve Garvey this fall. Another issue that you might be facing is the Supreme Court and the recent ruling giving the president broad immunity to anything done as an official act. We've heard VP Harris talk about possibly being open to the idea of expanding the court. I wonder where you think we're at. Would you support that? And do you think there is something fundamentally that needs correcting?
I strongly support expanding the court, term limiting the court, an enforceable code of ethics on the court. In fact, I'm one of the lead sponsors of legislation in Congress to do that. Mitch McConnell, Donald Trump stacked the court. If we're going to change that, it means that we need to enlarge the court and rebalance it. Otherwise, we're going to have this reactionary court for an entire generation. I'm simply not willing to have an entire generation of Americans suffer under this court. I also think that we need to be campaigning in this election as much against the court as against Donald Trump, because that immunity decision, the Dobbs decision, these are catastrophic. The Dobbs decision take away reproductive freedom for millions of people, endangering their lives. The immunity decision endangering all of us by essentially telling a president like Donald Trump, go ahead and commit crimes while you're in office. If you can cloak your actions in office, then you're going to be immune. That is, as Justice Sotomayor said, like leaving a loaded weapon at the hands of a president. And that new immunity is a profound danger. We need a court that has more respect for our constitutional scheme than to empower presidents to commit crime in office.
Some of these things we've talked about already in our conversation today are national issues for sure. Others that are more California specific with regard to crime, homelessness, affordability and housing. I realize you're going for the role of Senate. However, what can you do in that role that could also help California's very pressing problems, maybe in a way that aligns with both state and national interests?
Well, I'm glad you asked the question because actually, while these are national issues as well, they're hugely important to California. Really, my whole campaign motif is get stuff done. Sometimes I use a stronger word than stuff. We need to get stuff done in California. We need to build a lot more housing. We're not going to solve the problem of homelessness and unaffordability of housing unless we're building hundreds and hundreds of thousands of units of new housing. I'm strongly advocating for a dramatically expanded low-income housing tax credit to make it pencil out to build new housing. I'm introducing legislation to measure what's working and not working in the struggle against homelessness so we know what we should be spending our money on and so we're not wasting money on things that don't work. We need a lot more child care as well. To me, this is one of the other crises along with housing, and that is so many Americans can't find affordable, accessible child care. It's keeping lots of people out of the workforce. That's bad for them. It's bad for our economy. So we also need to make sure we're expanding child care facilities and we're paying child care providers enough to attract more and more people into that vital service.
All right, Congressman Schiff, because I know we're just about running out of time, I want to touch on something that's on everyone's mind, and that's the Veep stakes going on right now, the vetting process and the selection process for a running mate for VP Harris. Democrats certainly feel a lot of excitement, like there are a lot of good choices. So who do you support? Who would you put your money on?
You know, I really haven't picked my favorite. I think a lot of the folks that have been mentioned, the governors of various states, including our own, senators like Mark Kelly, these are all outstanding choices. The vice president is going to have to make that choice quickly, but I'm sure that she will pick someone who not only will be a great vice president, but also will help her win, because at the end of the day, you can't govern if you can't win. So I'm looking forward to a great pick to complement this already brat summer.
All right, Congressman Adam Schiff, thank you so much for joining us today.
Great to be with you.
Appreciate it.